meeting to order. This is a regularly scheduled Greer City Council meeting called and convened this evening, March 22nd, 2022. Having called the meeting to order, I'd like to ask if you would please to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation for council.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you with humble hearts this evening and ask that you would hear our prayer. Lord, as we assemble and gather as a council, we ask your guidance and direction upon the decisions that will be made here. We thank you for these that have joined us this evening and pray that we will entertain their motions before us this evening with consideration, dignity, and respect. Pray, Lord, that you will guide us as we seek to guide this city as we continue to grow and count the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us, not the least of which is calling us to public service as a council. And we thank you for that opportunity to serve you in that way. I pray that we will be mindful that while we enjoy a beautiful day today, that there's anticipation of bad weather tomorrow. We pray that you'll be with those that serve the city and our community and responsibilities where they will be outside tomorrow. I pray a blessing upon them as they answer emergency calls and do their regular routine jobs, sometimes outdoors, that you'll provide for them. I ask also that we would be mindful of those that lack shelter, may lack food, may lack many of the things that we take for granted every day, and that you will bless them especially. All these things we ask in your name and for your sake. Amen. Ms. Duncan, anybody to appear in public forum this evening?
No, sir.
With that, council, let's move to the minutes of council meetings. We've got two to approve this evening. March 8th, 2022, there was a public hearing on the 2020 redistricting benchmark report. I'll entertain a motion that they be received.
So moved.
And a second. Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, the regularly scheduled meeting on March the 8th, 2022. You have those minutes before you this evening. I'll entertain a motion that they be received.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any items of note for the clerk? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood?
Yes.
Mr. Booker?
Yes.
Mr. Hopper?
Yes.
Mr. Dumas?
Yes.
Mr. Bettis?
Yes.
Mayor Danner?
Yes. Council, let's move to special recognitions. We have two this evening. One is a proclamation declaring this Bleeding Disorders Awareness Month. I've got a proclamation in that guard. Or is there someone here to receive it this evening? Great. Well, if you'll join me in the front. So I thank you for being with us this evening. This is a proclamation that I would like to present that reads, Bleeding Disorder Awareness. And whereas I, Rick Danner, Mayor of the City of Greer, am proud to commemorate March 2022 as Bleeding Disorders Awareness Month in the state of South Carolina. And whereas this designation will formalize and expand upon the designation 30 years ago of March 1986 as Hemophilia Awareness Month by President Ronald Reagan. And whereas the Federal Department of Health and Human Services designated March 2016 as National Bleeding Disorders Month. And whereas these bleeding disorders, which share the inability to form a proper blood clot, are characterized by extended bleeding after injury, surgery, trauma, menstruation, and lead to significant mortality and are fatal if not treated effectively. That was a mouthful. And whereas many individuals with hemophilia become infected with HIV and hepatitis C in the 80s and due to the contamination of our blood supply and blood products, whereas this awareness month in South Carolina will generate greater awareness and understanding not only of hemophilia but all inheritable bleeding disorders, including von Willebrand disease, which alone impacts an estimated 1% of the United States population and more than 3.2 million individuals. Whereas this awareness month will foster a greater sense of community and shared purpose among individuals with all inheritable bleeding disorders. And whereas this awareness month will elevate awareness and engagement in the inheritable bleeding disorder journey beyond our community to the general public, enabling the prevention of illness, unnecessary procedures, and disability law, I do hereby declare the month of March 2022 as Bleeding Disorder Awareness Month in the city of Greer. I present that to y'all. And if you would like to say a word about it.
Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you, County Council, for allowing us to have Bleeding Disorder Awareness Month be recognized in the state of South Carolina in this March 2022. My name is Sue Martin. I'm the Executive Director of Bleeding Disorders Association of South Carolina. We care for the entire state of South Carolina. We're the only nonprofit advocacy, education, and support organization, nonprofit that wraps our arms around people that are affected by bleeding disorders such as hemophilia. My husband Rick over here and I have 3 children with hemophilia. We didn't know I was a carrier, and lo and behold, I now have 3 sons doing wonderful due to the fact that we have organizations such as our organization in South Carolina. Next to me is my co-partner, Jeremy, who works diligently with me to advocate on behalf of all people in the state with a bleeding disorder. So if you ever know of anybody, send them our way. And again, thank you for this opportunity to just share our stories and to raise awareness for people that might have a bleeding disorder. And thank you, Mayor, for that. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right, Council, let's recognize some anniversaries and commend some employees here. And I'll ask Mr. Merriman to join me. Again, this is a resolution that says, whereas the City of Greer endeavors to recognize and reward its dedicated and faithful employees, whereas Derek Davis has served in the fire department for 5 years, Sam Dobson has served in the building and development standards for 5 years, Hampton Knapp has served in the police department for 5 years. Suzanne McKinnon has served in the police department for 5 years. Scott Merrill has served in the fire department for 10 years. Kathy Mayers has served in the police department for 15 years. And John Holland has served in the fire department for 25 years. Whereas these employees have served in a distinguished and professional manner, now be it therefore resolved that the City Council of the City of Greer, South Carolina, in a meeting duly assembled, wishes to officially recognize and commend these employees for their distinguished and dedicated service for which they have performed. Be it further resolved that the City of Greer hereby rewards these dedicated employees with a certificate of appreciation and an administrative day off with pay approved this 22nd day, March 2022. With that, we will ask that you come forward when we call your name. Scott Merrill. Scott, if you'll stay with us on one side or the other there, we'll thank you. We appreciate your service. Derek Davis. John Holland. Thank you. We appreciate your service. Hampton Knapp. Suzanne McKinney. We appreciate it. Thank you much. Let's give these folks a round of applause. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before one of the folks that we just recognized leaves, I told him I was going to give him a hard time, but I'll do that another day.
You just threatened him tonight, huh?
Yeah, well, Mr. John Holland, he was recognized as an employee, and I guess technically that's how we do it now, but John has served all those years as a volunteer, but not only has he done that and done that well, he also serves as the chairman of our planning commission and does an excellent job with that. So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Did he say that was a pleasure?
Yeah.
Is that a hint?
Yeah.
Council, in your packet tonight, you have departmental reports. Those are there for you to peruse. They also are available. If you need more information, please give the city administrator a call or department head if you need clarification on something contained in those reports. We have a petitioner this evening that would like to come before council.
Mr. Mayor, we need to get a report from you.
Jumped right over Ms. Howell, didn't I? Ms. Howell is with us to give us a financial update in regards to financial activity. Excuse me, ma'am. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll give you a brief review of February 2022. Starting with the general fund, we collected $3.6 million in revenue for a year-to-date total revenue of $22.9 million. The total expenditures in February were $2.6 million, and $88,000 of that was fund balance usage, giving us year-to-date total expenditures of $20.1 million, which is 4% under budget. If you refer to our dashboards where we compare actual to benchmarks, we do have a positive overall variance of $2,013,000, and the cash balance in the general fund now is $22.5 million. Moving on to the hospitality fund, we have a year-to-date revenue total of $1,970,000, year-to-date expenditures of $661,000, and a cash balance now as $2,926,000. And I do just want to add quickly that I know there has been some concern about the effect the inflation could have on our hospitality industry and our revenue. So we have, we don't generally have the information that we think we need since there's so many factors that are into the hospitality revenue. But we did reach out to our restaurants this past month to see if they could provide us information that we could kind of get a better analysis and how the inflation would affect the revenue. And unfortunately, we did not have a really good response. It was very low. So with the low response, the low representation of the different restaurants, and a big variance, it's still a guess. I just want to make sure everybody knows it's an assumption. But we really think that there is very minimal impact to hospitality taxes from the inflation. So we will keep that in mind as we move forward with our budget and consider that as we need to further down the road. So moving on to the Stormwater Fund, the year-to-date revenue is $1.4 million. The year-to-date expenditures are $665,000, and the cash balance in the Stormwater Fund is $3.2 million. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Council?
Mr. Mayor, if I may just jump in real quick to clarify the question on the hospitality tax. Susan, thank you very much. We were trying to solicit the information that we wouldn't ordinarily have. Okay, so we usually don't ask restaurants and those that do the prepared food to provide us that. But what we know is that anecdotally there has been some adjustment in pricing specific to food, but it's also specific to the restaurant and the type of food that is served. We know that some of them, given the inflation, hasn't adjusted their prices. Some of their adjustments have been, from a percentage standpoint, substantially higher than another restaurants may have been. Just again, based on the type of restaurant, whatever it is. But we are aware that there is some inflationary impact. But right now we could not, despite our best efforts, really provide a good number that I think even warrants discussing today, because it could be as high as, X number of thousands of dollars. But that's not something that we want to discuss. But what we will be prepared to discuss as we go through the budget when we're doing revenue projections is that will be part of our discussion. So I think this is one of those metrics that we're going to have to pay attention to. But when inflation just becomes the cost of everything anyway, it's going to be a moot point, I think, when this is all said and done. That is a long way of saying that we're trying to get the information. This is the best we could come up with. We're aware there's an impact, but we think it's at this point negligible.
Now, so far, of course, the data you are reporting on, that was just entering into a time of inflation, right?
Well, we actually tried to go back for like a 14-month period, and we just didn't have enough information to do that. But we think, there is a huge increase. We were thinking 14 months inflation, so that's another assumption. Is it really 14 months worth of inflation that could be attributed to the increase in revenue? And so that's how this particular analysis was done, and there was over the 14 months there was a 10% increase that we could attribute to the inflation. But that's over a 14-month period, and so 14 months.
So what if it's a 10% increase in revenue, right? Is that what you're saying?
For the taxes,
Okay,
yes.
so if you back that 10% off the collected revenue, how does that compare with budgeted revenue?
We're still above.
Yes.
We're still above.
Yes.
How much?
We can probably go back and run that number unless you've got it in front of you, but I know we're above it.
No, and the reason I feel like that metric is very important, because I believe it is a leading indicator of how consumers feel. And if we're seeing an increase in that hospitality revenue, but the increase is only because of inflation, then that's, we need to readjust for inflation to really see where we stand.
No, and I think that's a valid point. And that, to me, would be as we go into the budget and we're looking at our revenue projections, that's where we have more fervent discussion about that.
Thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, now we have a petitioner that's going to come before us this evening, and I have some photos that she would like to be shared. Ms. Good, if you would like to come to the podium there and give us your name and address, we will be glad to entertain your petition of council.
Hello there. My name is Margie Gude, G-U-D-E.
Thank you.
And the reason I'm here today, due to the traffic coming off Tryon Street and Memorial Drive right down through there, the traffic is so bad, and we got a real high bank there and a big old pothole over there. We need a stop. We need a red street light there, and we need that bank cut down some, because you can't get in there, and they got big old trees like this over there, and it always seems like you're gonna run into the trees, into that tree. And also they got the street marker on the left-hand side, when all street markers normally be on the right-hand side of a road. I guess the reason they have the street marker there, because you can't, you wouldn't be able to see the street marker to know that was Tryon Street. And that traffic is so bad. Just said a car coming out of Tryon Street, getting ready to take a left on Memorial Drive. When they do turn, they turn all the way into the left-hand lane trying to get on Tryon Street. And that's a big problem there. We need a light there, and we need something done about that bank that's up about this high, and the people have to pull out in the road in order to see if in the traffic anything coming. Because it's just a terrible place over there, and just something need to be done about it, and done about it quick, because I almost hit that tree one night because I couldn't see to get in there because people have their lights on bright. When they're on bright and you trying to turn in, that's almost impossible. Now, a lot of time I will stop and let them, and blink my light so they can come on out. And then I don't be knowing another car behind them, then another car pull up there while I'm trying to turn in. And I feel like someone gonna get hurt really bad there, and it's just a dangerous place. And so I brought the pictures and stuff, and on the right-hand side, it's a big old pothole that's in, like you're going in off the cement, concrete. It's, y'all know what I'm talking about, but it's a big old pothole there. You fall in that every time you try and get up there. Then when you try to pull out of that, you could put a little bit more gas and run into somebody coming down Memorial Drive. And I did call CPW. I called Greenville County, and they told me to call Due Power. And they said they don't know nobody have that particular area in there. And I said, since I'm paying tax, I need to just stop paying taxes if nobody don't have the area up in there. Somebody got to have the area. And so I would love for that to be taken care of. And it sort of need to be done like in a hurry. That bank need to be shaved down so people can see who coming out there and stuff like that. And those pictures I gave you all, it should show that on there, right there.
Right. We typically don't respond to a petitioner, but let me share some advice with you, if I might. If I'm not mistaken, Tryon Street is a county road, is it not?
Yes, sir.
And
Try
Memorial is
the state road.
So
Yes,
that
sir.
intersection has a county road that intersects with a state road. So neither one of those are roads that we would maintain or have any control over. I would suggest that you start with your county council person in that area and make them aware of that.
So who is that in that area?
Mr. Barnes.
That would be Mr. Mike Barnes.
Could I get his
We
name
will
and
absolutely make sure.
address?
Yes, ma'am. We will make sure you
we'll
have that
get you his
contact.
name. And then there was a special election today to elect somebody to serve that district in the state house, and I would start with them as well, because they're going to be looking for people to be able to provide some constituent services for, and that might be something they'd be willing to jump on fairly quickly. So
Yeah, because it really need to be done
as soon as there's
quickly.
a new representative elected today, you might want to contact them. And
Right. If I get the telephone number and stuff,
we'll
hey, I hit him up tomorrow.
we will, if we've got your contact information, we will get you those numbers sometime tomorrow. I will make our engineer aware of the potholes so he can contact the right people about that. That may be something we can take care of, and we'll see what we can find out about electric service in that area. I just don't know who would provide any kind of street light out there.
It's a street right up above there. It's a street light going up that street.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of feel like if you're going up that street right there, they could at least bring one on out and put it on the side of that road, because we got a church there, but the church lights is shining that way. It make it even darker, because you know how behind the light it's really dark, and we can't see by those lights, but we need a pole there somewhere so people can see to turn in there. It's so black down in there, you can't even see nothing.
Okay.
I think we ought to let our engineering department go out and look, because on the other side of the street where the church is, that's all CPW provides service for that.
Okay.
I think it'd be a good idea to have a light there, because it is dark.
Okay. We'll check on the light. We'll get you the names and numbers of Mr. Barnes and whoever the new representative is, so you can talk to them about physically making the changes out there, and we'll go from there, okay?
But now, let me ask, with that high bank there, I guess it belonged to the people that live up on the hill there. What do they have to get permission or something, shave that
They
bank
would have
down?
to buy the land, yes, ma'am.
Y'all have to buy the land?
No, whoever does the work in the state and the county would have to figure that out. They would have to buy a right of way to do anything with that bank. It's not going to be a short
Yeah, because
solution.
I'm gonna tell you, it's a hot mess.
Yeah, I agree. We've had this issue come before us before, and
But see, it's just like this. I'm not gonna give up.
we'll get you the names and numbers of those folks to contact.
Okay, I appreciate it
Like
very
these
much.
back?
Yes, I'll take them back.
Okay. It would be a good idea. Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate you guys.
All righty. Thank you for making us aware. All righty, Mr. Merriman, I believe you're up now.
Yes, sir. The only announcement that I'd like to make tonight in the administrator's report is the last reminder you're going to get from me for March for the Statement of Economic Interest. Remember that is due by the 31st through the State Ethics Commission. If you have any problems, let me know, and I'll do what I can to help you get squared away, but those are due on the 31st. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Council, let's move to items of new business, the first of which is the first and final reading of resolution number 4-2022. This is a resolution electing the standard allowance for lost revenues under the Americans Rescue Act. Mr. Merriman?
Yes, sir. As you're aware, that the city through the American Rescue Plan Act was awarded, or we were, our portion was $16.4 million. When it was originally drafted, as the final rules have come out, it was designed to replace lost revenue on a dollar for dollar. What the federal government has allowed for, and what we are taking advantage of, is taking the standard deduction of $10 million as opposed to identifying what our lost revenue would have been. And that $10 million, if you'll recall, is the unrestricted general government use portion of the funds that we received. So long story short, the $10 million is more than we would have been able to claim in lost revenue, so I recommend we go with the $10 million standard deduction.
Upon the recommendation of the administrator, I hear a motion to pass resolution 4-2022.
So moved. Second.
And a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions or comments? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Second item before us this evening, the first and final reading of resolution number 5-2022. This is an allocation of Greenville County CDBG and home funds for program year 2022. Mr. Merriman.
Yes, sir. At your last council meeting, we were pleased to host Amin Wabadu from GCRA. She laid out the 2022 program revenue for both the home and the CDBG. I'll remind you, CDBG this year is $359,786, and our home funding is $166,879. Mr. Mayor, I have no new or additional information from GCRA's report, and that's all.
For the purpose of discussion, I'll entertain a motion to receive.
Second.
And a second. Floor is open for discussion. Questions? Comments? Hearing none, Ms. Duncan.
Mr. Arrowood,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Dumas,
Yes.
Mr. Bettis,
Yes.
Mayor Danner.
Yes. Council, we have no stated business in executive session. I adjourn the meeting.